for taking the time to join this session, and apologies for kicking off a few minutes later than scheduled. So as part of the introduction, my name is Rendani. I am the CTA academic head, and therefore you are likely to engage me quite a lot in these sessions. But in terms of delivering, I'm not alone. I've got a team that covers a wide spectrum of the modules and aspects of the workshop that we're going to discuss. So what I want us to do in this kickoff session, it's really to just explain what the workshop it's all about, how are they going to work, and how you are expected to engage with them in order to gain as much benefit from them as possible. And the idea, it's always for me to really come together as partners, and whenever there are classes that are scheduled, as much as the people that are coming before you, they will be or will have taken the time to prepare for the sessions. And I'll want you to do the same and impress them likewise and come prepared, engage, and take as much as possible from the session. So this is something that we are doing for the very first time in terms of the CTA workshop. So there's quite a lot of excitement, but at the same time, there's also an opportunity to enhance this, to make it better. And the idea is to make it worthwhile for you. So the agenda for tonight, it's really quite short. So the first thing on top of the list is to say, for those that are encountering us for the first time, who are we and what are we all about? Then we're going to talk about the bigger picture in terms of the world as we know it is constantly and consistently changing. And one of the things that has necessitated, that is where it has had an impact, is the impact on our learning syllabus. And the CTA syllabus has also been affected by some of the changes that we are seeing at the end of the profession in terms of CA 2025. And I think, therefore, there is a need then for us to have engagements like this and to be able to engage and be able to really understand what is the big idea behind it, and therefore, how does one really prepare themselves in order to achieve success. And then thirdly, in terms of how or where the idea of the workshops came from, we'll also just share some history in terms of what we've done in the workshop with the workshop model and the kind of impact that we've managed to achieve with it. Then with regards to the structure of these particular workshops, we are also going to then unpack it as our fourth agenda item. And we are also then going to deal with the admin issues. Just to say that, okay, if you are interested in joining the classes, how do you go about it? How do you prepare for class? What kind of material are you going to get? When are you going to get it? So that is the how. Then closer to the end, we'll then talk about the team. And one of the things that is always quite important for me, it's always that, as I was saying, it's new, and I'll always want it to be better than what it started as. And one of the ways to achieve that is always to get feedback from you, to say that, sure enough, this is our first workshop. What worked well for you? What will we do much more, quite differently going forward? And what more of the aspects that we're going to do now can we do more in order for it to be more impactful? So that is the agenda here. With regards to the question, you are more than welcome to stop me at any point, whether through a chat, whether through raising a hand, in order for us to engage and be able to then what? To be able to unpack some of the things that I'll be talking about, making sure that we are fully aligned what is going to happen.
Many. Nimewaga, stop it. No, I'm gonna beat you. Go put it back. Nimewaga. Go put it back. No, you can leave it.
Hi, Rendani. We can't hear you. The sound is off.
Firstly, is the input brand. Secondly, hello, can you hear me? I understand
Yes,
it.
you are back now. We missed you for the last 5 minutes.
Was I
Or
talking
10.
alone?
Yes.
Sure. Where do I begin? I'm not seeing the chat. Let me just see. Let me put my smaller screen here so that I can see the chat. I see. Actually, yes, I see. Thank you for that. Okay. So as I was saying, just to track back a bit, I was saying that in terms of who we are a private tuition provider. Our focus is on developing candidates that are looking to be professional accountants, and our two qualifications that we are supporting, it's the CA qualification as well as the CIMA qualification. And what I was saying is that these are some of the leading qualifications in the world. As we know it, SAICA is the leading qualification or the most trusted brand globally, whereas CIMA is the biggest professional body in terms of the numbers. The two professional bodies offer some of the leading designations. And then for us, it is a matter of we really believe that there's so much value in the content that they have to offer on the table in terms of the career opportunities, in terms of the ability to add value in whatever you're doing. And accordingly, we've then set ourselves up in order to support the candidates that are looking to achieve this professional qualification. And we do so via the three brands that I've got here: the Institute, the board course, as well as the EPC brand. When it comes to the Institute, this is where now you and I will be engaging quite a lot, because this is then the brand that supports candidates that are currently studying at CTA. So it offers CTA as a support service. And we do so by providing an online offering as well as platforms like this, the CTA workshops. But in addition, we also offer a CIMA program that will be launching at the beginning of April. And the idea here is that this is where the core really happens. This is where the foundation is actually laid out for the success later in one's professional journey. And this is because later on, there is nothing new apart from key developments that we'll be sharing with you that we're going to be teaching you. And the idea, therefore, is that one needs to really invest quite a lot at this particular part of their professional journey. Then going a step further, we've got the ITC board course. And this is the brand that we use in order to support candidates that are sitting for ITC. And that means these are CTA candidates that will have just graduated or completed their CTA. This will then be candidates that will be attempting ITC for the very first time or repeating ITC. Then we've got our PSYCA accredited brand, which is the EPC, where now we support candidates, whether these are candidates that have gone through the CA route via the traditional journey of CTA, ITC, and APC, or otherwise candidates that have gone through the journey using the CIMA traditional route. So the idea here is that we are now saying you are at a point where you are about to enter the profession. And the focus right then, it's mostly the development of your professional skills. And we're going to talk about that because that kind of thinking, it's what we're going to be seeing quite a lot at this particular level. And this is because we are understanding that the values, the concepts, the thinking that is captured in the CA 2025 that we've been working with on the APC side, it's now going to filter through to ITC as well as to CTA. And one of the things that I strongly believe is that the best way to develop some of these skills is through engagement between ourselves, explore different ways of thinking, because here you will then get to find that mostly it's not about who's right and who's not so right, but rather we're gonna work in order to do it, to shape how one needs to think, how one behaves, how one becomes socially and ethically aware of some of the dimension before a decision is made. So these are the three brands that we have, and they work together in order to what? In order to just see candidates reaching the milestone of qualifying as professional accountants. And the other thing that I was saying in terms of there being quite a lot of the grounding at the CTA level, we get to see it because candidates that are in our ITC program and APC program, they get to benefit quite a lot on the CTA videos that we offer. So essentially, as I was saying, there is nothing new that we're going to be focusing on later on in your professional journey. It is going to just be what? About how best to apply all those technical skills in the context of a work environment or solving a problem. Then, what really is driving this thinking? Why are we seeing some of the changes that we are seeing in our CTA syllabus, in our ITC syllabus, in our APC syllabus? And how? Because the first thing that we need to do is to really understand the why. And after we understand the why, we can then start talking about how best we can get there. And essentially, the idea is to develop responsible business leaders. It is to develop responsible leaders in business. That's what it's all about. So what is that? How do we then become responsible business leaders? Because yes, it's one thing to dream of being a CA, but the expectation of us from society, from other professionals, is that we as chartered accountants are responsible leaders in business. So what makes us stand out? What makes us to really be different? And how do we embrace this concept of responsible leadership? So when you look at the guidelines in the CA 2025 from SAICA, it says that a responsible leader is someone who behaves ethically and who creates sustainable value. For whom? For a range of stakeholders by actively participating in the organization's value chain. So the concept that we started with when we started studying, I'm sure you will have heard the same, is that we as accountants, were expected to maximize shareholder value. But the world has now moved so dramatically that as much as that is true, it is not the paramount or the sole objective of a company. A company needs to add one value, but that value has to be sustainable and it has to be done in an ethical manner. So that is what is expected of us. And if then that's the case, you will then need to understand and therefore embrace the concept of strategy development and how you consider the different stakeholders in that. And from a management accounting, this is where we're going to be talking about things like the 6 capitals, where we need to consider that there's different capitals that will bring, there's different people or stakeholders that will bring financial capital to the company. Then there are those that will bring human capital. There are those that will bring manufactured capital, and so on and so on. And that is us understanding the organization's value chain and how best we need to be able to what? To extract that value and bring it to the various stakeholders. And the way that we are to demonstrate these principles of responsible leadership is that we are expected to always display professional values and attitudes. And we need to know what we are doing. So we still need to have technical skills. And we need to be able to apply what we call enabling competencies. And if you look at this bubble that is coming from the CA 2025 framework documents from SAICA, it really then shows all these things, the professional values and attitudes, technical competencies, and enabling competencies as coming together and meeting where we are saying integrated thinking is then being applied. That is what we are going to be dealing with. We are going to help you understand how does that look like. And maybe let's briefly talk about professional values and attitude. How does that look like? What is expected of us right there? How do you know? And I'm sure you might have heard someone say that, but that one is not professional. Oh, this is not the professional way to do it. But what does that mean? How does someone demonstrate professional value? What is a professional attitude? That is the idea right there, that it's not enough for you to be the best, get 90s distinctions and so on, but you need to demonstrate values and attitude that are aligned to what a chartered accountant looks like. And this is the attitude to be excellent. That's one of the attitudes. You need to always say that if I'm registered for a program, if I'm working for this company, if I'm going to attend class, how do I then demonstrate excellence? Does it mean that I need to come prepared? I need to put extra hours. I need to do, that is what we expect of chartered accountants. And everyone probably that you know, they will always tell you about something that needed them to push themselves quite hard. It could be their studies, it could be a work project, but that is something that is generally expected of us, and not generally, but always expected of us, and that we need to embrace as an attitude of a CA, of a responsible leader. We need to be able to work well with others. So in a context of a team, we need to be able to what? To demonstrate leadership, to demonstrate listening, to demonstrate solution-driven mentality. That is another attitude. In terms of also value, we need to have thirst to continue to learn. It is not going to be that we reach CA and that's it. Then we are saying our journey is done. But it's actually the beginning of a journey. And we need to embrace the concept of lifelong learning. I mean, right now, there are quite a lot of developments out there, and the biggest one being what? Being sustainable thinking, integrated thinking, that we are now embracing even in the education system, that as CAs who have already qualified, we need to be aware of that. We need to embrace that as well. And that is what we are talking about there under professional values and attitude. Then we talk about technical competencies, which when you look again at the CICA framework, this is where now the things that we are talking about technically are sitting. And it will be one, accounting or financial reporting competencies, auditing and assurance competencies, governance competencies, and it will also be management accounting, finance, tax, as well as strategy. So for us to really be responsible business leaders, we need to be technically competent. We need to be technically competent. And therefore, that's why the exam structures are the way they are. They are helping us to be able to demonstrate that we can be trusted to sign off financial statements. I mean, you continue to hear stories about financial statements being signed off when a company does not have cash, whereas they have what? Suggested or creatively told that they have what? That they have this cash. We are hearing a number of companies failing every day because of what? Because of some of these oversights that we get to see. So the expectation of us is that we need to be great at what we do. Sure enough, we can be great at everything, and that's why the professional values around teamwork, working with others, then are embraced. But the idea is that we need to be good at what we do. So the syllabus will always demand that we study hard and we come knowing our work. Then we've got the enabling competencies. So the enabling competencies says that these are not things that one can pinpoint to, but these are the things that it's like they're embedded in us. They can be developed over time. You don't go to a class and you learn what? Enabling competencies. But you go to a class, you are made aware of them, and you then go and apply them through studying, through engagement with others, at your workplace, and so on. And there we find competencies like 1, business acumen, 2, critical thinking, 3, effective communication skills, and also digital acumen. So those are some of the enabling competencies we find there. So what are they all about? So right now, if I say that I am making a loss, you as an accountant, you are being presented with a problem. You need to be able to unpack that problem to your senior manager. If it's your own business, to be able to unpack that for your own business. And that is the kind of value that we as CAs bring. So the expectation there will be what? Will be that I can ask, all right, tell me about your revenue. Has it gone down or has it gone up when you are experiencing a loss? Then someone could say, surprisingly, it has gone up. Then, oh, maybe it's not an issue of revenue that we are solving, but it could be an issue of what? It could be an issue of cost. So now you are applying enabling competencies. That is not necessarily an accounting issue. That is not a management accounting issue. That is not an auditing issue, but it's an ability to start questioning in order to validate things. So that's what we are talking about when we talk about what? When we talk about enabling competencies. Furthermore, you could then check, okay, did you have new suppliers? Oh, were you using the same suppliers that you were using the other time? I was using new suppliers. Then business acumen will then step in. That could it be that they're charging different prices than the other one? But now you are asking all these questions, applying your understanding of business in order to solve a problem. And the more or the quality of your questions are then sometimes going to be driven by your understanding of cost principles. Because the next thing could be a majority of your cost fixed or variable. Then you are tapping into what? Into cost behavior. And that's why you cannot say that I am shutting off my technical, I just want to look at this problem. They need to be integrated thinking for us to embrace this concept of what? Responsible business leadership. Then another thing that it's worth highlighting is the part about acting ethically. We are expected to act ethically. The moral fiber from what we see and hear out there, it's quite concerning. So we need to really take the mantle and stand as responsible leaders and make decisions that are ethically appropriate. So all these things are now embraced in our syllabus. And as I'm saying, some of these things, we'll develop them through what? Through, say, engaging with each other, through doing questions. But you have to understand that this is what is expected of you. That's number one. And the statement on the side captured it so beautifully. It says, a CA's professional competence therefore extends beyond specific accounting technical expertise. It includes development of competencies that include those attributable to responsible leadership and sustainable value creation. So that is the picture I want you to have. That this is what is expected of me when I qualify. And I want you to start embracing it today, so that when you go out, you could then say that, yes, it's one thing to know my work, but it's another for me to not take care of my employees, not to be considerate of employee needs, to be considerate of my boss's needs, and so on. Because I will just be in the technical bubble, but that's not what is expected of us in this profession. This profession is at the top of the ladder globally because of these things. It is building responsible leaders. So it's not a fluke. It is something that everyone that is qualified really embraces and is expected to continue to embrace in order to uplift the profession and the society at large. Then, okay, maybe before we go, we will proceed here. Any questions on this? Are we aligned? Does this thing excite you? Do you feel like you want to be a CA right now? Is that, do you have that feeling?
Yeah, and then we're all pumped up to start the year. And yeah, I hope the journey is going to be exciting with Enginam.
Great, great. Then, now let's talk about why we are here. The workshop model. So for us, this is not something that we are doing for the very first time. It really started in 2020 under COVID. And at the time, there was just quite a lot of uncertainty about really how the world will look, how the world is all about, how it will look like after everything has subsided. Then we thought that one of the things was to really connect the different candidates that were going to sit for the APC and under these uncertain conditions. I mean, at the time, SAICA came out and said, no, APC, we want it to be a face-to-face or a venue-based assessment. So we are happy to move it out from its standard date. And I think then it became an issue to say, what if then I'm not well at that time? What if I then get contracted with COVID? And what we wanted to do was really to just have a platform where we can engage with candidates and just really reignite the passion and the excitement of this journey, and to some extent reassure them that yes, as much as it's still scary, there is some silver lining to it. Then it really kicked off on a very positive note. At the time, it was quite short, about 1 or 2 days that we then had with the candidates, but it really made a very strong impact on the candidates that set for that assessment. Then 2021, we didn't get to do it, but came 2022. We then relaunched it in 2022, and this was just after the laptop fiasco. I'm sure you might have read about it. And again, there was a big uncertainty for the candidates that were going for a rewrite to say, what if I experience that? What if this happens? What if that happens? And again, we rose up to the call and we put this as a platform again to allow for engagement, to allow for just the excitement about what this all means and why one really started this journey. And it really made, again, a very notable impact. Quite a lot of people were in attendance, and in terms of also the success, it achieved some good success, such that we then were joined by Abasa in December 2022 workshop. And in December 2022 workshop, it was now EPC as well as Abasa. And we then were able to even double the numbers that we had in March, and having an attendance of about 500 candidates there. And from an impact perspective, it was something that a lot of candidates really embraced and really found value in terms of the kind of lessons and the guidance that the team was sharing. Then, come 2023, last year, we then also launched it with Abasa for the ITC candidates. And again, from where we are, we are planning another one for closer to the end of the year to just then help the candidates that might be out of a program to prepare for CA 2025. Then come 2023, we were also joined by two other partners, Investec as well as Alca, and they joined really to really make the impact even much bigger. And we ran our biggest workshop last year. And with regards to the results, when the results came out on Friday, about 300 candidates that attended that workshop were successful. And for us, it's really all about that this is a platform to connect. And I think in this platform, we want you to recognize that whatever you might be concerned about facing as a challenge, you are not alone. And you might then find that there are actually like-minded people that you can connect to, people that are as passionate about you, about this journey as you, that you can connect to, find friends, study buddies, and really secure and move yourself closer to your CA dream. So the workshop really has so many dimensions to it. And as we've just explained, I don't want you to see it as just a bubble on technical competencies, but I want you to see it as an opportunity to connect, as an opportunity to sharpen your mind, as an opportunity to really challenge some of the status quo. And the team that will be before you, they will have come prepared. So I want you to engage with them and extract as much value from them as possible. It will not work if one comes in as a spectator. And I will therefore not want any of you to say, I didn't get to do the question, but I'm just going to attend and just hear what the lecturer is saying. No, don't do that. But rather, we are doing the kickoff now so that we can find ourselves come next week, having prepared, having had the opportunity to work through any of the material that you will have received and intellectually engage with the lecturers. And the lecturers are looking forward to it, and I'll therefore want you to really show up and really get this excitement going so that there could be more of this, there could be more impact, and there could be more takeaway. Because what we are really looking to do here is that we have seen year in, year out, candidates getting to the test 4 and saying that, sure, I'm really worried here whether I'll get exam entrance. And we start seeing the calculation that I need a 60 year, I need a 70 year, I need, no, we don't want you to do that at that point. We want you to use these workshops and really start thinking about the bigger picture and where you are heading, and ensure that come test 1, you do extremely well, such that your calculation will be saying that even if I don't pass, I'm still fine. That come test 2, you do even extremely well, 3, and so on. And the idea is that because test 4 is an integrated assessment, it means the work that you're going to put in test 1, 2, and 3, it's going to be incredibly valuable. And it's going to also be sufficient to carry you in the final exams. So what does that mean? Or how is that so? It is so because majority of the work is covered really in what? In term 1, term 2, term 3. So it doesn't mean term 4 is not important, because we still have topics like leasing, share-based payments there. But I'm just saying that in terms of the value and investment you're going to make, I would rather want you to put a little bit of sleepless nights here without the stress of it being necessary, so that you can find peace later on when you're studying. You can find joy. The last thing that I want you to recall about your CTA journey is that this was really a painful thing, but I want you to enjoy it. And therefore, I will want you to fully commit to this journey. Fully commit by doing the questions, by studying, by watching the videos, by engaging with the lecturers, but own it. Own it and ensure that you enjoy this part of your journey. So this is just the history of the workshop model. Then now, how have we thought about the CTA workshops? So essentially, for test one, we are going to then just start with 2 elements. And depending on the feedback, and also some of the things that we have seen to have been successful, things like having previous candidates come and talk and share their journey, having professionals like dietitians, yoga instructors coming and sharing some good guidance that is meant to help you, having some markers coming to the mix. So those are some of the things that we've planned for later. But we just wanted, given the time, to really focus on the core. And the core here are lectures as well as the tutorial. So what is our thinking when it comes to lectures? So one, we are saying you are here because you are registered with an institution already. So you have the material. Some of you are registered with us, so you have also the video and the material that we provided you. You've got, say, textbook. So we understand that no one is starting at zero. If maybe because of time and circumstances you are saying we are starting at zero, then sure enough, you still have enough time before your first test, talking about UNISA candidates there. And the idea is that what? The idea is that we want you to then think about the lectures as an opportunity to refine your understanding of the core principles. So it's one thing to know a principle. For me, it's another to understand it. Some could say that I know that when you've got ABC, that you take the fixed cost and you divide by the different activities. But then I say, what is a typical activity in this context? Then someone gets stuck. So they know the process, but they didn't understand it. They know the principle, but they didn't understand it. So those are some of the things that I want you to really let go of and focus on understanding. Because once you understand, we can talk about structured thinking. And structured thinking, now some call it critical reading, critical thinking, because right there, we are saying that if I give you something, your mind will be able to pinpoint that, wait, whatever you're talking to me about, it sounds like an accounting policy principle. It sounds like a fair value measurement principle. It sounds like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of principle. So that's something that I'll want you to do. So in terms of the topics that we're going to prioritize, we are going to prioritize those that we know tend to be tricky. So there could be, say, 10 topics that need to be covered, but you can find that we're going to cover, say, 2 or 3. Why? Because we know that once you get through these ones, you will then have, one, the confidence and the ability to untangle the others. And that's why it's structured thinking, because you are not just thinking for here. You are thinking about how to take these tools and be able to apply them in different contexts, build on them, use them to feed onto others, and so on. So the way that we are going to unpack the technical, we're going to do it in a really fun way. We're going to do it in a very methodical way so that you can understand and be able to replicate the process somewhere else and be able to build further on it. Then the tutorials. It's one thing to know the work. It's one thing to tell me you understand the principle. But exams, ever since they've been created, they've demanded more than just knowing your work. They've demanded that you are present. And when we talk about presence, we are talking about exam technique. We are talking about critical thinking. So a lot of people that you're going to encounter here, they've been markers in our programs at SAICA, at UNISA, and different institutes. So they are here and wanting to share some of those insights with you. From my side, I've led a number of ITC marking sittings, and leading a marking sitting entails that you get a question paper, you get feedback from all the accredited universities, you consider their inputs, and you respond to each and every one of them in terms of whether you agree or do not agree. So you really get to understand the mind of an examiner, the mind of a marker through that process. And those are some of the things that I believe that you as candidates, understanding that will also empower you to know that, no, if I do this, no, there's no mark. If I do it this way, even if my answer is wrong, I will get this, I'll get this. If I then this, so that's what we are talking about. And that's why the tutorial component will be such a crucial component in this journey. So by the time we are done, you will be eating critical and integrated thinking for breakfast. And you will be seeing it everywhere when you are studying, when you are at work. All these things will be embedded in you. And because they're enabling competencies, it means that you will then, or when we talk about enabling competencies, I like how one of my colleagues actually refers to it. He refers to it as transferable skills. That after you've done a question in CTA, the value of that question tanks to almost zero. But the reason why you will then be requested to redo it is because there are some things that you can take from that question that you can apply in a different question, the transferable skills. So when we are in tutorial mode, we will then be focused on helping you to develop that. That you cannot come and say, I've got good exam technique for accounting, but how can you and not have a good exam technique for MENEC, for tax, for audit? Because if really these are transferable skills, it means that you should be able to take them and transfer them here. Like how? For instance, planning, getting a required, underlining the key verbs, getting a required thinking about what will need to come first, break down the required, break down and think about how many marks time will this require, what will be the appropriate structure, how these 14 marks that the examiner wants need to be spread, where do I start, and so on. So those questions are the questions you can ask whether you're doing a math question, accounting question, audit, as well as tax question. So as a result, I'll want you to then be invested in the tutorial program that forms part of this workshop. Okay, any questions? Any questions? Remember, as I said, no spectators. So,
Hello, sir.
good evening. Who's speaking? Jack. Jack, yes. Jack,
I'm
good
yeah,
evening.
yeah. I just have a quick question, especially in
Mhm.
terms of the session, the upcoming session for test one, right? So
Mhm.
my question is, would you guys be able to provide like resources towards like preparing for the exam, like the actual test, and also to what extent, like if we, let's say we get the questions, to what extent should we like prepare for test one as opposed to test four, which is kind of integrated? Like what should have, like, obviously this test provided as like a building block towards preparing for test four,
Yeah.
but I'm just like, just to think integrated, like to think like not in silos, but to think collectively. How can one? Because I would like to believe that when you're looking at text, one is looking at the legislation, whereas we have the ISAs, we have Companies Act. Then how can we then towards building for towards test four, and one can build that mindset, to prepare
Yeah.
for that big upcoming examination, or like say assessment. Yeah.
No, fair
Thank you.
enough. No, fair enough. Thank you so much for that question, Jack. And and I think one thing that is quite important is to accept that sometimes the process takes time. And I will not necessarily want you to expect so much from yourself. And the reason I'm saying this is not that no, we're gonna get there, but it is quite important to get there through, let's call them first steps that are really what do you call it? Practical. Uh, so how that looks like for me is that if you look at any of these disciplines, firstly looking at them in silos, it is such that um, even in the discipline you'll be looking into, there is an opportunity to integrate. So integration is like it grows up. It starts as baby integration, and then over time it also grows up. And I'll therefore want you to grow up with it. So that's how that one looks like is that, for instance, we could then start with, say, accounting. Accounting, you might then have a topic like income taxes. Income taxes in itself, it's an integrated topic because one, it requires your tax skills or your tax knowledge. When you're calculating those tax bases, and then you will need to then bring it with accounting by calculating the carrying amounts. Then you will need to prepare the tax note by calculating the current tax expense. And then you will bring it to deferred tax. So there you are in an accounting world, but you cannot be in an accounting world having ignored what? Having ignored what SARS say. So that's what I'm saying about taking it step by step. So, and additionally, if we go back to accounting, then there is also what? Then there is also accounting policies, for instance. So accounting policies as well. You cannot then adjust for retrospective errors or change in accounting policy without having considered deferred taxes. So that is what I call, or what they call, integration, where you're integrating knowledge within a particular discipline. When now you're gonna get a question to say that a decision has been made, and then raise your ethical or governance concern, then you will then say, I'm going to look at the code of professional conduct. After I'm done on the same issue, I'm going to look for whether there is what problems with governance from a Companies Act perspective. So that is where you're going to start. So once you are there, you will then find that you are able to now also say, come test two, bring the deferred tax principle, the change in accounting policy, but now say for errors that involve share-based payments, errors that involve. So do you see that you are still growing and thinking? So it is going to be important that when you are studying, when you are making your notes, you remember that these things, I am not only studying them for test one, but I'm studying them for later on. And the other integration now starts to make sense when you've now covered quite a lot more and interrelated topics across the discipline. Because now you might be thinking that now that I've now covered tax allowances and I'm doing NPV, I need to remember that. Rachel, your phone screen is on. Rachel, your camera is on. Sure. All right. Thank you. So does that make sense, Jack? That the idea is that you will need to allow the process to grow and evolve. So don't put so much stress on yourself right now and say, I need to do this and this and this all at the same time. No, sometimes it's just a matter of being aware. And once you have got your notes and you're now learning something, you're going to come back and say, oh, now that I know something, then this can fit here. It means that when I think about this next time, I need to be mindful of this, and so on and so on. Because sometimes we get to see, and this is what I tell a lot of ITC candidates, that in ITC, even when a question is highly integrated, the skill that we always talk about is what we call isolation. So that I'm going to tell you about governance issues in the first paragraph. I'm going to tell you about that person who's got governance issues starting a small business. And then they're gonna buy a machine and they have to cost a new product. So there, I've got what? I've got 3 separate disciplines coming together. And yes, it's very integrated and it could look heavy. But if you go to the required one will say, discuss the governance concern, full stop. Required B, discuss whether this is a small business as defined. Part C, discuss whether it's an appropriate to cost this product or so on. Yes, what is integrated is not necessarily the technical knowledge, but it is the scenario. And that's something that we are going to also unpack, because integration, it cannot just be a blanket integration. It starts within a discipline, it goes into a scenario, and the highest level, the most complex, it's when you use the same scenario for different things. Does that make sense, Jake?
Yeah, it makes sense. Thank you so much. I understand where you're coming from. Thank you so much.
All right, cool. Thank you. Any other question? I see some text. Yes, is the registration? Yes, the registration is still open. So that's a question from Pua. Yes, I have a poor connection. So sorry about that. It's not showing the name. Not sure why. Pumzile. I noted that on the timetable for the week, we have a day for a lecture and a day for a tutorial. Does that mean we'll cover all test 1 topics? So no, not so. I think, as I was saying earlier, Pumzile, in some cases, we will prioritize and we'll want to just then use the limited time we've got in order to just make the biggest impact from a coverage perspective. So the idea is to just cover probably the most complex, the most easier, so that you can learn the easier and common, so you can learn how to apply it and really extract value from it. Hope that makes sense, Pumzile. Okay, sure, Jack. All right, thank you. So if there's any other question, you can just drop it there. So now, how will it work so that we are all on the same page? I always don't like when admin gets in the way of the fun stuff. So let's just make sure we are aligned. So the way that we're going to administer this is that we are going to then finalize a single administration document. So this document, we're going to release it on Wednesday, and it will be available on our website. You go under CTA, there's a tab called CTA Workshop, and you're going to find the document. So allow for it, just check up for it after 1 o'clock on a Wednesday. But if you come later in the day, you'll definitely find it. So on a high level, the document will look like this. So the document, it will have a number of things, including the questions I'm talking about. But on a high level, this will be the most crucial part. So if you look at the screenshot from the draft that I've got, it will then have a day to indicate when is the lecture. Then the second column will clarify what is the starting time and end time of that lecture. Then it will also clarify what are we actually doing in the session. Is that a lecture or is that a tutorial? So the tutorial is where now the focus now changes to, discussing the content through a question. So some of the material will have probably covered in the lecture side, and then the tutorial will then be applying those. And you will then see that the first test has quite a lot of strategy. Strategy, I can come and talk about it all night. But if you don't see it in a question, it becomes very difficult to really embrace it. So those are some of the things that we'll then touch on right there. Then we've got disciplines, where now it just clarifies which class is it. So math, that's management, accounting, and finance. Some call it MEG. Then audit, that's audit, assurance, governance, and ethics. Then AC, that's accounting, financial reporting. And tax, that's exactly it, tax. Responsible, that's the lecturer that will then be going through the class with you. So from where we're going to be finding each other for test 1, it's going to be on math as well as on accounting. So we're going to have fun right there. Going forward, going to swap a bit in terms of where I am, but I'll still be around. Then the last column, link, that is where you will find the registration link. So if you are then not registered within any of programs, it means that you will then need to then register for the classes that are relevant to you. Let's say maybe you're doing accounting and audit, then you'll find it there. If you are also doing you're gonna just then register for the respective links. Then in the same document, you're gonna find the topics that we're gonna cover. So let's say maybe you are not from UNISA and you are preparing, say, for your final exams in April, you could then find value in these classes. But it'll be important for you to know which topics we are covering so that you can prepare accordingly. And sometimes, or now that they've changed the structure of CTA level 2 from a UNISA perspective, it means that some of you could be doing level 1 and some of you could be doing level 2. In some courses or in some instances, the topics are aligned. In others, not so much. So you can then be able to see quite clearly in advance whether you will get value now. If you are starting out, yes, it might be such that one might want to invest time in the topics covered in the respective test, which is fair. And the videos we're going to cover will then be uploaded on YouTube, so you can always come back to them later on. So I will not want you to then feel compelled to say that, I'm here and I'm going to do it. I need to just attend even though it's not relevant for me. So it will still add value. It's just a matter of the when. Then that's point number 2, that it will contain the coverage topics. But in addition, there will be a link which will lead you to a folder. And in that folder, you're going to find questions. So in that folder, you're going to find questions. And those are the questions we're going to be discussing under tutorial. Those questions will be, some of them coming from ITC. Some of them will be coming from ourselves. Some may be from UNISA, so that we can be as comprehensive as possible. Sometimes one could say, I've seen this question before because I'm at UNISA and so on. So we are saying that then there will be an opportunity to deal with some of the questions that you might not have seen. So don't make it a hunting exercise where now you go around looking for solutions. So the solutions we're going to give you, but I want you to attempt this blind. You will not need to worry about attempting them under time constraints, just blind. Blind meaning that dedicate time, sit with them, and afterwards go through the notes, check in with the notes, and make sure by the time you come, you are prepared. Then the lecture material, so where it says lecture, we are looking to then issue this over the weekend, so 2 to 3 March 2024. Then, when it comes to the tutorials and probably any lecture material we're going to discuss, we are then going to do what? We are then going to make them available 48 hours after the session. So this will be the tutorial solutions, the lecture solutions. And it will be in that folder that I'm talking about. Then, after the class, within a day's notice, then the sessions will then be made available if you are registered on your portal. Otherwise, it will be made available on our YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube will also be in the document for ease of administration. But the idea is that you're gonna need just this one document to understand how to navigate the administration of the workshop. So this document, as I'm saying, it will be available to you on a Wednesday, 28th, 2024. So anything to clarify there? Are we all good? Yes, no? Can I hear from you? Are we understanding how we're going to be running this?
All good.
Okay, thank you. And the people that I was talking about, these are they. So I've provided just the high level profile for them. And then there will be what? You'll get to meet them as the documents provide. You'll then get to meet them, engage with them. But every one of them, very passionate, committed, and looking to deliver only the very best to you. So do come prepared to engage and make sure that you benefit. If you have any questions, there's the email, CTA care. That's the email that you can text, and then the team will pick it up from them. And one of the things that we'll then be introducing will just be feedback after each and every workshop. As I was saying, we'll want this to continue to be value adding. So please, after the workshop, once the Survey is out. We'll appreciate your time to just tick, give us feedback. We will definitely consider it for what? For future workshops, and make sure you get the very best from your investment in time. And that's it. That's what I had for our kickoff tonight. Are we all good? Any questions before we call it a night? Thank you. Thank you, Kavisilem. Looking forward to engaging. So yeah, so I will be calling your names if you are this quiet. And I see some that have got Shivenda Nevandani, Suzanani. Yeah, so I'm gonna be calling all your names. So I hope you come very much prepared to engage next time around, right? Kawo, Kanye. Yes, just have your names so that we can engage. Looking forward to having you, and thank you so much. I love that faith. Looking forward to our engagements. So I'm not sure. I just want to ask, what is the pass rate for last year's UNISA CTA 2? I'm not sure. Unfortunately, that information is not public information. It's always good to know, but unfortunately, we don't have that. But let's just get 100%. It's always easier, right? So let's get 100%. What's K for Spanyoni? So let's get 100%, and then we don't need to worry about that question. All right. Have a good evening, and we'll chat next week. Thank you so much.